Hello and welcome to another training video for the Compass Retail Advanced product. We're going to be looking at refunding prepayments and any returns involving prepayments. So welcome. I'm so glad you could join me today. My name is Julie and I'm a part of the Affinity support team. Our scenario again is refunding prepayments, and we're going to look at returns that involve prepayments for either general prepayments, item prepayments, resources, or blends. So first we're going to look at what it is to reassign a prepayment, as well as splitting one, what breaking a prepayment means for in a blend scenario, and then we'll look at the refunding side. So we're going to look at refunding unused prepayments, that are those that haven't been consumed yet, as well as refunding consumed prepayments and how the process changes slightly for that. If you'd like any more detail on what I'm covering today, feel free to see manual number 5, AR Sales Prepayments. So now let's start with what it is to reassign a prepayment. So here we are in Compass Nav, and I'm already in the customer list. And we're going to look at reassigning prepayments. Now they can be completed only when there are open item, resource, or general prepayments. It can be used to move a general prepayment dollar to a specific item, or it can be used to move some other prepayment dollars from one item or resource to another. So it basically allows you to shuffle these prepayment assignments around. So in order to get to the functionality to actually perform this task, I'm going to go to a customer prepayment ledger. So that's why I've started at the customer list. So I'm looking here at Roger Abbott. I've already issued him some prepayments, so now we're going to look at reassigning them. In order to get to the prepayment ledger, I'm going to highlight his record, and I'm going to look on the right-hand side under the customer statistics fact box. You'll notice there's a prepayment balance here. He's got a pretty large one now. And there's a hyperlink. This is like a hyperlink you can click on, and it will open up those prepayment ledgers. And it opened to my other screen. So here you go. So here's his prepayment ledger list. And this shows us all of the activity happening with his prepayments. So first we're going to look at reassigning a general prepayment. So I've just assigned one here for $5,000. And so what I'm going to do is reassign it. Let's reassign it to an item. So I'm going to highlight the general prepayment transaction here, posting that occurred, and I'm going to press reassign prepayment. Notice this window appears. You'll notice that the original prepay is on the left-hand side, and the new prepay is on the right. So the left, as it says, is what it was originally done, the original transaction, the one we're actually highlighted on the prepayment ledger here. And the right side is where we can reassign all or part of this $5,000. Again, it can't be consumed, this general prepayment, in any way. So we have the full $5,000 here. So now you'll see here an entry type of reassignment. So we're going to choose a prepayment type, which we want the general to be reassigned to. So let's reassign it to an item for sake of example. And we can adjust the posting date. I'm going to leave it to today's date. Now I'm going to choose the item number that I want to reassign this to. So let's say he wants some Nitro Max prepayment now. And the unit of measure automatically defaults based on the item record. And here what it does is the quantity is already populated because the system automatically calculates of the 5,000 of the general prepayment that we have. Now that we're reassigning it to the Nitro Max item, we can have 10 tons of it based on the $5,000. So we can actually adjust this to what we want, or adjust the unit price accordingly, depending on how Roger Abbott, our customer, wants to have his prepayment for this item. I'm going to leave everything as is. I'm going to press OK. And it's saying, are you sure, just to confirm you do want to reassign this general prepayment? I'm going to say yes. Now notice there's a new line that populated here. It actually readjusted, or I should say it actually overwrote the general prepayment that was there, and now the entry type has been updated to reassignment to the Nitro Max. And now we have $5,000 at 500 tons of it for a quantity of 10. So that's reassigning a general prepayment to an item or resource would be the same case. Now let's look at how to reassign a blend. In order to reassign a blend, we actually need to get to the blend list. So we're going to go up in the compass area to blends, and that's the list of our blends that we have. Now the blend that we want to break is Roger Abbott's, which is blend number 14. So notice in the top here, there's in the home ribbon, there's an icon called Break Prepayment. So we have our blend highlighted, and now we're going to press Break Prepayment. And it says, are you sure you want to break the prepayments for blend 14? Just to confirm. So by saying yes, it's going to remove the blend ID from any of those unconsumed open prepayments that we have in the prepayment ledger for Mr. Roger Abbott. And it's going to change them into a standard item prepayment. So let's say yes. And it says the prepayments for this blend have been converted to standard prepayments. So now let's head back over to Mr. Roger Abbott's prepayment ledger. And notice here that these two were our blend 14 originally, and they've now been changed to a standard item prepayment. So now these prepayment ledger entries can be reassigned just as a regular item would be, because they are essentially regular item prepayment ledger entries now. So that's everything I wanted to show you in terms of reassigning a prepayment. Let's now look at splitting a prepayment and what that means. So in regards to split prepayments, we need to go back to our prepayment ledger. So we're going to click here on the prepayment balance for our customer Roger Abbott. And so after a prepayment's been issued, it can be split for multiple purposes. It can be split for partial refunding, or to divide up that prepayment amount and reallocate it to another type of prepayment. But please note that once a prepayment has been partially consumed, only the remaining amount can be split. So for the first step for splitting a prepayment is we need to select the prepayment ledger entry that we want split. So let's split our first general prepayment that's already been consumed a bit here. So we've only consumed about $100 of this general prepayment. And let's say the customer comes back and he says, you know what, I'm not going to need this 10,000 of a general anymore. Let's split it out and put it towards something else like an item or even a resource. So what I'm going to do is split prepayment after I select the record. I'm going to bring my window over here. So this new window opens for you to specify how the prepayment is to be split. So again, on the left-hand side, you see the original prepayment and what is remaining of it. So in our case of the $10,000, we have $9,900 left over. And on the split prepayment on the right side, we're able to say, well, how much do we want to split? Now you can split by quantity or you can split by amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split off $3,000 of this. And I want to split it into, let's do a resource. Now I need to choose the resource number. So let's do delivery. And the unit of measure code automatically populates. I'm just clicking down the fields here so that the fields refresh. And I can also specify a quantity and unit price for this. So it's per hour. So let's say he wants 50 hours, and that will give him a unit price of $60 per hour. So you can adjust these depending on how you need, like what your arrangement is with the customer or what your business policy is around reassigning these prepayments and what the new quantity or new unit price is. You can also go by unit price and say, well, we're only going to give him a unit price of 70 per hour, which means he's going to get 42.86 hours for that prepayment. So that'll all equal to the $3,000 you're splitting off. So once we're happy with this, we're going to say okay. And again, it asks us to confirm, are you sure you want to split this prepayment? And I'm going to say yes. Now you'll see that our original is still intact. However, our remaining amount is decreased by the $3,000, and we have a new prepayment ledger entry here for delivery of the $3,000 that we just split off. Notice as well that the entry type has been updated to indicate that this $3,000 is a split, or is a result of a split. Note as well that even when an entry has been created as a result of a split, you can further split that entry. So if you wanted to break down, perhaps a customer comes back later and changes his mind again, and he wants to further split that $3,000 into another resource or item, you can certainly do that. It just follow the same process by highlighting and pressing split payment in the home ribbon. So that's everything I wanted to show you for splitting a prepayment. The next scenario we're going to look at is refunding an unused or not consumed prepayment. When we want to refund any type of prepayment that hasn't yet been consumed, or in other words is unused, what we want to do is credit the customer's account receivable balance. So to refund a prepayment, we must start at a POS credit memo. So I'm already here in the customer list at Roger Abbott. So what I'll do is I'll leave my cursor there, and I'm going to press the POS credit memo in the home ribbon, and that'll open up a new POS credit memo with the customer's information already. So to refund the prepayment, we're going to go to the home ribbon, and you'll notice a refund prepay icon. So we're going to click on that, and that brings us to our prepayment ledger list. From here, we would select any line that we want to refund. Now again, this is the scenario where our prepayment is not yet been touched. It hasn't been consumed yet. So for our first one here, this has been consumed. There's $100 consumed of that, so I'm not going to touch that one. Let's touch this one, the Nitro Max. That's been reassigned. This hasn't been touched yet. So now we're going to go to OK at the bottom of the screen. I don't believe you see that, so I'm just going to open this up for you and press OK. Now notice there's a refund prepayment window that appears. So in this case, we have an item prepayment, and we need to indicate the price to refund. So notice the price to refund here is $500. The current price tells you what it was originally issued at, and that was $500. So this price to refund gives you the opportunity to adjust what you want to return to the customer. You may have had a special at the time and you don't want to offer him the same amount back as he originally paid. For whatever reason, this price for refund to refund is here for you to adjust so that you have some flexibility around what you're returning, the amount of dollars you're returning to the customer based on their original prepayment. For sake of our example, I'm going to keep it to the original prepayment unit price. I'm going to press OK. Notice that it updated my credit memo lines, and it says Refund Nitro Max, and that's the full $5,000. And everything else has populated through. So that's the example of how to refund a prepayment that has not been consumed. It hasn't been used yet. I would post this through just like any regular POS credit memo. Now I'd like to show you the scenario where our price to refund is less than the original. So I'm going to go back to Refund Prepay. I'm going to select an item that has not been yet consumed, so that we're just doing a straight refunding of the prepayment. I'm going to press OK. And here we have the screen where we can refund prepayment. And our original price was 35 cents. So what we're going to do is change that unit price to 10 cents less. I'm going to say OK. Notice how the lines of our POS credit memo are updated. The first is to reflect our unit price of the 35 cents. Again, this is a refund of a prepayment, so we're really only worried about dollars here, not so much quantities. That's why our quantity is 1. We were just referring to dollars. But notice there's a third line that appeared here, and it's the unused prepayment return. And this is where it's going to calculate for you the difference between that original prepayment amount and the one that we just entered, the lesser amount. So that updates this third line. It'll calculate that for you. So now the next step would be to post our POS credit memo. I'm going to say yes. And now we can go back to our customer, Mr. Roger Abbott, and look at his prepayment balance. And you'll notice that his prepayment balance has actually been diminished. The items actually don't appear here any longer. And if we look at his ledger entries, you'll see that we have our credit memo here. And so now it shows that his AR account, or what he owes us, has been reduced by that prepayment amount. So if we did want to, at this point, issue a refund check to him, we could through the cash receipts journal. So your organization may not have that process. You may not regularly, or if at all, you may not issue customer refunds. But in the event that you do, the credit memo is here reflecting that you could pay back the customer for the refund of the prepayment. Now, we just looked at refunding prepayments when they're not consumed, that is when they're unused. But I also wanted to bring to your attention the scenario where you're refunding prepayment that has been partially consumed. So here I am back in the system in our customer list, and I've actually set up a scenario with Ted Bear here, and I want you to see his prepayment balance. So this is his prepayment balance. You'll notice that we have here Protein Plus that's been partially consumed, which we originally had 6,000 for that, and he's used up about 1,200. So we got 1,800. So we've got about $4,200 left here, and our general prepayment has been consumed as well. Let's say Ted comes back and he says, you know what, I need to return some of this Protein Plus to you. But he's actually paid it through a he's actually purchased it from us with a prepayment. So it's actually consumed part of it. So I'm going to close this off. And what we do if Ted came in, Mr. Bear came in, we would go to Home and press POS Credit Memo. The number will populate once I click down here in the customer number. Of course, Ted's customer number appears as well because I was already on his record in the customer list when I went to fetch a new POS credit memo. So now what I'm going to do is he's saying, yes, I want to return my Protein Plus. So I'm going to put in the item here, and I'm going to choose the Protein Plus item. So here we are. Well, as soon as I tab over, this window appears. And it shows me all of the posted documents, the invoices in this case, that have Protein Plus on it. So you'll see I have one from before, from December, that he had purchased before. But there's one recently here as well, just recently this month, that he's coming back to say, no, I've actually, I'm not coming back to return this 4. It's part of the 3 that I want to return. So I'm going to say here in my quantity to return, he's returning, let's say he's returning 1 to us. And I just tabbed out there. So there's my quantity to 1. I'm going to say OK. Notice how that populates the line, but the quantity is 1, just as I had entered in that form. But you'll notice here in the columns, please have these exposed on your POS credit memo. There's linked sales invoice document number and linked sales invoice line number. And that tells us that's the document we chose, the posted invoice that we chose in that last screen. And this is the line, this is line 1. In the system, each line is actually at 10,000. It goes by 10,000. So the first line is 10,000, the second line would be 20,000, third line would be 30,000. In our case, the Protein Plus for that posted sales invoice was on the first line, which is the 10,000th line. So we've entered that in. So that's what he's returning to us, although it's a prepayment. While he's with us, he's also going to return another item that he's purchased with us. Let's say he's going to also return the Nitro Max. So as soon as I tab off, it shows the last invoice or any invoices that the Nitro Max was on. And the last time on that invoice, he had purchased from us half a ton. So what I'm going to do is he's coming back, I'm going to say with that full half ton as well. So I'm going to say OK. And you notice that populates the line. And again, it'll populate our sales invoice document number and line number. That was on the second line, that item, the Nitro Max. OK. So there we go. So there's no indication here at this point that the Protein Plus was a prepayment, actually paid by a prepayment, and the Nitro Max wasn't. Actually, I believe the Nitro Max was consumed by a general prepayment when he originally purchased it from us. So let's see how this all works through, shall we? So you notice here my prepayment balance is $22,505. Okay. Those are my entries. I just want to note that because I want to show you, I want you to see the change here. So now I'm going to post this. I'm going to say yes. And now let's go back to Teddy Bear and let's look at his prepayment balance. Notice that it is exactly the same. His prepayment balance has not increased. It's still at $4,200, and his general prepayment is still at the $7,750. Okay, there has been no change, and you might think, well, how could that be? He's paid us with the prepayment for these items. He's returning them. Wouldn't those dollars go back to his prepayments, to this prepayment ledger? And the answer is no, it will not. This does not update. What actually updates is his actual AR account, as we say, his accounts receivable. So what I will do here is look at his balance. Notice here there's this credit memo. And this is the one, if I go show posted document, where we had the 2 items. And this now has increased his accounts receivable account, similar to the scenario where there were prepayments that were not used. It just goes straight here to the customer ledger entries. So now if Mr. Bear said, look, I really want that to be a prepayment again, like I want you to reflect it in as a prepayment. I don't want you to give me a check, a refund check for this. I'd rather have it back on my prepayment. What you would need to do, reflect that Nitro Max. I'm not going to go through that detail. Frankly, I don't remember the details of that Nitro Max. Let's say he's fine with the general prepayment being decreased and the rest being on his account, because when it's on his account, it actually decreases what he owes us anyway. So let's just say he wants just the Protein Plus. So now we're going to say on account. So this way it will offset. And that's pretty much it. So now, because it's on account, I don't need to release. I can just post and I will ship an invoice. Oh, before I do that though, I want to make sure I step off the line and make sure that my line is at a sale of a prepayment. Again, of course, you could always check statistics, make sure everything looks like you need it to. And now I'm going to post. I'll just ship an invoice because it's a prepayment. Now when we go back to Mr. Ted's prepayment balance, you'll notice here that the protein plus is back. So now we have two lines, but it's actually increased. If you were to total this, it will increase, right, by the $600 that was originally returned. So that's how you get the prepayment back into the prepayment ledger after the return of the item, and the customer wants to keep those dollars into his prepayment ledger. Okay, the important thing to note is when you do a return, whether it's a used prepayment, whether it's been consumed or not, the return will always go back to the customer account. And then you have to manually come back and enter a new prepayment, just as we did issue a new prepayment in the POS sales order. Now I'd like to walk you through the next scenario with a blend. So let's say Mr. Ted comes back with a blend that he had prepaid, but now he's returning it back to us. He's only bought, my scenario is where he's only bought 11 tons of the blend, but he's coming back with one. So it's blend 18 that he's partially consumed. And he wants to return to us the 1 ton that he's already picked up. Now what happens with blends is the prepayments are actually attached to the individual items. So we need to pick those items for the blend and enter them into our POS credit memo. So what I would do is start by typing in the first item in our blend. And if you ever need to know what those are, what we can do is go to the prepayment balance for Mr. Ted and see it was blend 18. And here are the items for blend 18. So we have blend 1 ESN. So let's start with that. We're going to do ESN. And here's our quantity to return. Here's our latest invoice at the top that we had issued him, and he wants to return the full quantity. You can't take apart a blend because it's already been all these blend components, all these items have been mixed together already. So we're going to keep it to exactly what it was, the quantity. And now we're going to go to the next item. Expand this. The next item is this one, fertilizer item number 2. Choose number 2. Again, we tab off and it tells us exactly what the quantity was on our last invoice. Make sure you put the same amount of decimal places. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 nines, 1, 2, 3, 4 nines. Step off. It's all from the same invoice that I'm drawing these from. $16, $17, and $18. Item 16. Step off. 0.4, 1, 2, 3, 8. 16, 17, 15625. There we are. And our last item in our blend is number 18. Step off and 562.5. Notice our unit of measure is in kilograms for our item components. So everything's updated accordingly to the unit of measure as well as the quantities that we originally had for this blend. Despite the fact that the blend was paid by prepayment, we're going to still enter them this way in our POS credit memo. Now when I go to post this, it will bring this quantity. Let's look at our statistics. It'll bring our amount, including tax, of $200.01 back to his AR account, to his customer account, where we will owe him that $200. But again, if the customer does want to have these dollars reflected as his prepayments again, rather than us giving him a check, a refund check, we can then issue a new POS sales order for an issue prepayment of the blend of this total quantity on the POS sales order. So you could always come back here once it's been posted, once this credit memo's been posted, we could grab the total quantity here and reissue a prepayment of a blend for that quantity. So that's how you would process a blend return that has been prepaid. So that's everything I wanted to show you on refunding prepayments that have some consumption. So that's our training video today. I really hope you enjoyed what we covered today and that it gave you some insight into how the system works. Thank you so much for attending. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover or any feedback for these videos, feel free to let us know. You can contact us by email or by phone. The information's there on your screen. Again, my name is Julie, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.